Hey guys, it's Carolyn. Welcome back to the Quit Getting Screwed podcast. We're talking about all the ways not to get screwed in the construction industry. And today with me, I have a very exciting guest, Tommy Cole, who's the vice president of McFarlin Stanford. And I'll let him explain exactly what they do.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Tommy. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. So
Yeah.
tell me about McFarlin Stanford. What is it? It's kind of very specific.
Yeah, man, it's a law firm. No, I'm just kidding. It
Sounds like
sounds
it.
like it, right? It sounds crazy. McFarlin Stanford is a business coaching business that tailors right now in the landscape industry. If you can think of your business coaches that are the back office, we call it. So we're not actually, putting stuff in the ground and managing crews and driving trucks, which all landscape professionals and even construction, that's what they're good at, right? But we take the behind the scenes approach and go, let's manage books, let's have a good culture, let's have hiring and onboarding processes, all the things that we didn't sign up as a construction landscape business owner, all those things.
Yeah, you didn't know that you needed. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got here with this company.
Yeah. Funny story. I never dreamed of being in this position at all. Not on podcasts and not doing this. So, but I absolutely love it. So way back when, 20 years ago, I graduated from college and with a landscape architect degree. So I knew I was wanting to be in the landscape world. I had a choice of architecture or landscape architecture. I chose landscape architecture because it's outside and hands-on and golf course, that type of thing. So fast forward 5 years, I lived on the West Coast, Phoenix, California, doing design work for high-end residential, master plan community drawings and transmission line corridor stuff. Like you name it, I was drawing all the drawings and doing the details and all that. After 5 years of that, I said, I don't think I can sit behind a desk for 10 hours and draw and draw and draw. So moved back to the state of Texas, and that's where I got my hands on in the construction and landscape world. So when I say both of those, there's two different worlds. So I had two different stints in the civil construction here in the Texas area. We're managing heavy construction, civil construction, grading, excavation, you name it, from commercial to residential to quarries to casinos, all that. So I had two different stints there. And then the biggest one was in the landscape world. I helped manage a company in the Dallas area, started out as a project manager, worked my way up to vice president of construction. And that's where I learned a ton in the landscape construction. So working with crews, managing project managers, all that. And then after that, man, I got back into the civil world for a few years. And then before that, McFarlin Stanford was started a few years prior to that. And a few key people in that landscape company that we worked with decided to branch off and say, hey, let's do this business coaching kind of consulting in our industry. And I said, I'm not ready for that. There's no way. I'm too young. I need to experience more. So I took a few years to go back into the civil world. And then finally I said, I'm ready to jump in, not knowing how to coach people at the end of the day. And so here we are. So it's McFarlin Stanford is based on four partners. There's two co-founding partners and then two partners that have come on board. And we lead the entire company. And so it's crazy to say that that we're coaches and but we love what we do. We help people out grow their business, and that's probably the most gratifying thing out there.
So what does it look like if I'm a landscape company, I'm doing all right, or I'm struggling, and I contact you? How do you help them? What does that look like?
Yeah, so there's a couple different ways. So we try to do a sort of a discovery call, try to figure out, what is it? What size of company you are? How long you've been in business? Where are you located? Like get all the basics down in their business and then try to find out what they're struggling in. The biggest thing we love to direct them to is what we call peer groups. And if you don't know what that is, a peer group is a group of business owners that get together so often and help each other out and discuss issues in order to grow their business. And so that's what we've been very successful with in the last many years, is get them into a group and go from there. We've had some very small companies join us. When I say very small, less than $1 million. And they just need a little bit of help here and there. They've got to get their books straight. We offer a bookkeeping services, and what can you actually afford these types of things? And some of our successful ones are going, okay, I get it. I probably need to hire a bookkeeper. I need to get my chart of accounts. I need to get my finances in straight. Instead of looking at the bank account to see if I've got enough money each week to pay payroll, how is my business functioning? And I always use the analogy of, you might be looking good on the outside, but let's do the blood test of your body to see what's going on in the inside. And that's where we suggest some companies to just start small and get your books and your bookkeeping straight, and then let's hit the next one. But we get them into peer groups, and that's the ultimate goal. And once they get in that group, they tend in the next couple of years become doers and get stuff done. At the end of the day, there's nobody else holding an owner accountable at all, besides the power of a peer group, right? When you got 11 other business owners in a group, they can call your bluff, and nobody else can.
Gotcha. And from your experience, what are the 3 P's of running a successful landscape business?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, so people, process, and profit. I mean, that's super simple and easy, but let's start off with people. What I believe in is your number one asset is not that fancy piece of equipment that you bought. It's not the truck. It's not the facility. It's none of that. It means nothing unless you have good people. At the end of the day, you could have everything, but the people have to operate your entire business. They have to operate the machines, the trucks, everything. And if you don't have that, if you don't have a defined, a culture is a culture. It is what it is. But if your culture is not about people first, I don't think you're gonna go anywhere. So that's the number one. Process. We can talk about that for hours and hours if you've got plenty of time on this show. But process is how to do things right. How to onboard, how to do a good sales presentation, how to do a good handoff from sales to production, how to close the books, how to punch list a job out. There's just so much going on. If it's not documented and drawn out of what to do step by step, I mean, basically it's in your head and you've got to figure out how to get it out of someone's head. It's not going to work. And then that scary word called profit, people are scared to use the word profit because, I don't want to let them know I'm making money. No, this isn't the business of making money at the end of the day, right? Otherwise we wouldn't be here.
Exactly.
And so when you put those together, I strongly believe that's successful business.
So what are some of the things that you teach these companies to do to change their culture to be more people-centered?
Yeah, people-centered. There's a few things. Let's talk about, hiring and onboarding, right? So when you're looking to hire somebody in these roles, what are you doing? And I feel like the number one thing in hiring is the law of attraction. Does your company and your people draw good talent to your business? Mm-hmm. Right? The days of putting a sign up in your office or something that says now hiring,
and people showing up are gone.
Yeah, that doesn't happen anymore. It just doesn't. They just don't walk in this world we live in. So how do you draw this talented people into your company? Well, it's the people you work with, right? So are they happy? Are they successful? Do they refer other friends and family to come work there? Is there referral bonuses? Do you have, company gatherings, what's this, once a quarter, once a year, the holidays are coming up. What are you doing for that to make the excitement of just the normal punch in and punch out. So we've got to be able to draw people in and be excited about our business. Like, what does your website look like? Does it look like a bunch of boring pictures of installations, or does it go, come work at this awesome company? We get like swag gear, we get, holidays, we have fun, but yet we work real hard, and we're held accountable, and those types of things. So you got to draw people in, I believe. And when you draw them in, so let's talk about onboarding, right? Construction in the industry is like hire and
go to work,
like figure it out. And if you can't figure it out, you're not worth it, right? And so
I think that's an owner problem though, because it's like the owner assumes that they know everything, that whoever they hire knows everything that they know without putting it in a process.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. So at the end of the day, like, how do you onboard? And I believe onboarding is a 1 year long process.
Really?
Okay. So in other words, let's just say, I have a rule of when you hire a new manager, whether it be office manager, project manager, operations, sales, never have them come in on Monday morning first thing, because what's Monday? Monday's just kind of chaotic, right? It's after the weekend. Like, let's start them at 9 a.m. on Tuesday. And why is that? Well, because that's when everybody's in the office. The secretary, the front desk, client representative, everyone's there. Everyone's aware that this person is showing up at 9 a.m. And what are you going to do when they walk in, right? You're going to greet them and be excited, that sort of thing. You're going to, their desk or their office needs to be set up to where it's ready to go. Phone's ready to go, laptop, their shirts or swag gear, everything's in working order. Like, how many times you showed up at a company and it's like, oh, I got to get the phone to work. The email doesn't work yet. It takes a couple of weeks, or like, you can't, right? Like, put some excitement into that and get all the hardware and software figured out and set up, ready to go. In day one on onboarding, they shouldn't be working. They should learn people's names. They should take a tour. It's the gate codes, the office codes. This is where we do, let's go to lunch on your favorite place. Let's just have a good time, right? And then the next few days, let's take the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to finish out the week. Let's have them sit with the office manager that does the billing and the greeting and the phone calls. Let's have them sit with the finance person to understand billing and AR and AP and how that works. Let's go have ride-alongs with operations people, ride-alongs with salespeople. So they get the full picture of what the business does, because even if you get hired as a project manager, right, you're going to need to know how all the intricate things of the business function, right? And then come to the next week, boom, Monday morning, like, you've got everything ready to go. You know where Sally is, you know where Bob is, you know where to go for anything questions wise. You got a buddy partner that's in your office or in the field that you can always communicate with for questions or comments. And then after 30 days, you need to follow up, 90 days, 180, and then boom, the 365-day follow-up. I feel like the onboarding is 1 year. And when you have a good, attraction of talent, and you're interviewing and you're on time to respond to these people that are, wanting to interview with you, and you're quick with your professional offer letter, all those sorts of things. And then you also have an onboarding. I mean, gosh, if you did that with every person, I feel like you're going to do some successful things.
That's good. That's a lot of, that takes a lot of time though. Do you have pushback from your clients from implementing these strategies?
No,
Just...
not at all. Right. Because what do we do? What we do is we hire someone and go, you're a project manager, get after it. Right. I go manage this job because I can't handle this project. Like, oh, wait, the job's over here. Well, how about we just can we slow down and get the budgets and get the schedules right and get everything figured out before we because usually when you're looking for someone to hire, you're kind of in panic mode, right? Yes. Someone left, right? But if you slow down and be methodical about it and understand it, I think a few days of onboarding will be successful for you in the long run.
Well, and that's kind of the point of SOPs too. So like someone leaves and the next person can pick it up. But what does that look like in a landscape company? Like, do you do it for everybody? Just do operations? What does SOPs for a landscape company look like?
Like SOPs, meaning you for onboarding.
Well, just in the operating procedures, like, is there set for the field that they take with them, or
Yeah.
where are these written down? Where are they kept? How do we create them?
Yeah. So my experience in the SOPs, let's take the field for instance, right? Everything is documented, and I'm a fan of the sort of the old school binder, right, where you've got stuff to look at, and it's laminated, and it's got the inserts, and this is just our Bible for everything. And it can range from a lot of things. It could be, this is how we clock into our jobs, right? We use digital clocks, we clock in and out, and this is how the step-by-step process, and this is where we dump our trash, this is where we park our trucks, this is how we do our truck inspection. See, here's the truck inspection. And when you have this sort of binder document that the crew lead would have, then it's up to the crew leader to be like, all right, crew member, this is how we go day by day, right? And so you're constantly training that person based on that document. Now, for office staff, I believe it's the same way. So how do you process invoices? How do you bill for things? How do you manage the timeline? Like, there's got to be something that is built so they follow the step-by-step process. A lot of times construction companies or landscape companies don't take the time to build those types of things because it's like, listen, it's just not the sexy part of our business, right?
Well, it sucks too, especially to think about all that. But the problem is like, especially recently with the Great Resignation, when somebody leaves, that person knew all the secrets.
Yeah.
And nobody else knows all the secrets. And now even if you find somebody else, you don't even know what to tell them to do.
Right. Well, and that's a great analogy. I'm a fan of the word systematized. So how do you take your business and systematize it to where when that one person leaves, like, how do I take that next project manager and insert and go, here's the blueprint of how to be successful project manager, right? If they were to leave, I can insert a new one, right? But you got to create that blueprint. So it's one of those things that it goes back to job descriptions and defined roles, right? Absolutely. Do you have a job description? Okay, great. It's a little high level, 30,000 foot elevation, but it's super necessary. All the basics of a job description, but where it gets really detailed is defined role. Like, what are the 5 to 8 things that this project manager is going to be graded on? Right? Okay. All right. Budgeted hours versus actual hours, right? Budget versus actual on materials, right? Timeline, deadline, client satisfaction, referrals, all those. Did you close the job at the end of the day? Did you hand off your project to the maintenance division to where now they can take care of the property? Like, so there's those things that I'm going to grade that project manager on. And if he or she hits those 5 to 8 things, well, dang, he's successful, right? And when you manage your project manager, account managers throughout the year, and they know that those 5 to 8 things that they got to hit, when it comes time for their performance review, it's not a surprise.
Yeah.
Right. But oftentimes as business owners, we're like, it just depends on what type of mood we're in. Right. Or what have you done for me lately? Right. But it's not. But you should be able to have an idea how you're doing throughout the year and the ebbs and flows of managing projects or whatever it may be, to where when it comes to that performance review, you have a pretty good indication of what to expect.
But I think it takes a lot of owner time too, because I don't know if that's a job that can be delegated, like what you're expecting. I think that is, at least in the very beginning, the owner's got to sit down and say, here's what I expect, right?
Absolutely.
Even if you have other people check in later, it's still the visionary. It's still the,
Yeah. Well, and it's your direct, it's direct reports, right? That's what so if the owner's got, 5 direct reports, by God, that owner has got to make sure that they are doing the performance review every single year. And the performance review is not, it doesn't have to be dependent on money or raises. It's just, how is that direct report doing? Like, they need to be evaluated. And oftentimes we don't. What's that?
I said they want to do a good job. They have to know that they're doing a good job, or if they're not, how to fix it.
Yeah, that's true. And it's a two-way system, right? So the owner gets feedback, the direct report gives feedback, right? That's why the other thing I'll hit is I'm a huge fan of the one-on-one meetings. We call them one-on-one meetings in our business. And that's with your direct reports. So let's just talk about what we're referring to is the owner has 5 direct reports. I'm a fan of having a weekly meeting with your direct report every week. And you may sound like, well, that's a lot of time with your people. Like, that's 5 1-hour meetings every week. But quite frankly, it's not that bad when you need to get to know that person very well, right? And it's their idea to, you also talk about, professional development as much as personal development, right? Everyone has things going on outside of this office and work, right? And it may be going through tough family things that may lead to certain clues of like why Johnny's not performing that well. And maybe you can sort of help him out along the way but that's also the owner opening up to the direct report a little bit. So but quite frankly, the middle management that report to the owner, they want that 1 hour of undivided attention. Yeah. Like, I want to talk to the owner. I want to understand where he's coming from. What's the vision? How's it going? And if you're meeting with that person every week, you got to have an idea of what's going on. And if those 5 to 8 KPIs are determined, then when you go into the one-on-one meetings, you kind of have an idea of how Johnny's doing, right? Mm-hmm. So it's just, hey, give me up, like, how is it going? And how we do one-on-one meetings is the past, the present, future. Hey, Johnny, what happened last week? Like, how's it going? Man, I working on these 2 jobs. The client's getting a little crazy with me. Okay, tell me more, right? And then, what's going on now, Johnny, till now? Johnny, what's going on next week? Like, what's in the plan? What are you preparing for? What do you think you'll get done? So those one-on-one meetings every week, which tie back to people, oriented business, that are your number one asset. If you spent, 1 hour a week with those 5 people that are pretty important to you, that's you taking the time and the investment in those 5 people that can make or break your company.
Absolutely. So the other word you said is profit.
Yeah.
What do you do with a company that comes in and they have no idea if they're making a profit or not? Where do you start?
Oh boy. That's such a good question. No profit. So I go back to basics, right? In our industry, there's 3 key things that make you profitable or not profitable, that have the biggest needle to move. And when I'm looking at a profit, let's just take like a P&L sheet. There's a lot of things in there. There's insurance, and there's trucks and salary, and there's all these line items in a profit and loss statement. But the 3 things that you have the most control over, which are in a cost of goods sold, are labor, materials, and subs, right? Those are the 3 things, right? In the landscape world, we sell labor. It's a service. Mm-hmm. So I look at those 3 things as the number one driver. And when I look at those 3 numbers, I can tell really quickly if they're making money or not. And more than likely, most unsuccessful landscape companies don't make it because of the labor. So like, if I sell a project for 100 hours of labor, they may get it in for 150 hours. Well, that's 50 hours over budget. That's just not going to work.
Yeah.
So that would be my first indication was, all right, let's just get a P&L sheet, and I want to see the month previous, and I want to see the last trailing 12 months so I can see what's going on each month. And then you drive down to those and go, all right, labor, materials, and subs. And I start breaking that down. And more time than not, it's mostly the labor force. And then I say, okay, so then your solution to that is you got to watch the man hours. Like you have to observe that, not, like, what do we, here towards the end of 1 month, you can't wait a couple of months to figure out how that month went. It's just too late. So the idea is for you to be able to manage that labor every day to see if you're winning or not. Like, so then you can make a correction middle of the week, right? Oh my gosh. And so quite frankly, if your crews understand the budgeted hours, they can look at the calendar and go, oh my gosh, we have to be finished with this project by tomorrow, because the next day we're going to another job site and we can't, like, we've already promised that to the client. Yeah. So we've got to get going right now. Okay, what are you lacking? Well, we need this from the owner. We need this to be ordered and delivered. We need this. And then they can start, owning the job on this hour budget of hours that was sold. So that'd be the way.
What's measured is managed, right? And it's really impossible to make any corrections if you're not seeing the numbers until afterwards. Not looking forward, you could correct it, but
right. We want to turn that ship like ready to go. Like, I want to be steering right now. Is it left, right, straight? Like, I want to be able to make those corrections. It's no different than, I compare everything to sports. I love sports. I'm super competitive, probably more with myself than anybody else. And everyone that knows me, I'm ultra competitive. But let's take a football game, right? And the coaching staffs are very good. When they see like the offense, that when they go to the sidelines, what are the first thing they do? They grab their iPad to see what the defense is doing. But what if they did none of that for the entire game? And then they look at film and they're like, on Monday morning, they're like, oh man, we should have done this. Well, it's like too late because the game's over.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So I want people to understand that, like, if labor is your number one reason for the winning or losing in a landscape company, you need to be monitoring that every day. Like, that has to be a staple in your business. So, in-game adjustments, right? And the head coaches, they go back at halftime, make those, they all the halftime adjustments. Hey, coach, what are you going to do? Well, now we're going to do this based on what the film showed us. And a lot of times the good coaches make those adjustments, then equals wins in the second half. Fascinating.
So tell me about your favorite client success story.
Man, okay, I got two. Small client, far South Texas. A younger kid came to us and they said, hey guys, I'm ready to hire my first manager and I'm ready to do it. And we're like, are you sure? Like, let's just kind of just take a step back if you're ready to hire someone. As we started to dive into some of their finances after a few coaching calls, we did find out, like, you really just don't have enough money to go hire your first manager. What you need to do is instill the whole labor, materials and subcontractors, manage your guys, manage them tightly, and make the money in order for you to hire your first person. He's like, got it. 6 months go by, 8 months go by. Cool. We're watching his books because he hired us as bookkeepers now. And he's like, I'm ready to go. I'm like, you're ready, dude. Like, you can afford. Boom. First hire. Got it. Successful. 6 months later, he jumps into a peer group. As of today, he's in a peer group. He's grown so many more millions of dollars than he was starting. And he's a young kid that's driven and successful. He just didn't have the knowledge of, like, when can I hire someone and what do I need to do next? He's really good at the landscape, can build incredible stuff, just didn't know how that experience. And to this day, he's a great client of ours, and we love him to death. One of the other stories is working with a client up in Colorado. They've been growing. The head of that company is non-landscape professional, comes from a different world, and they have grown so much. It's just it's unfathomable what they do. And I remember helping them coach before COVID, during COVID, and after COVID, when they didn't know if they were going to keep the doors open at all. And they kept figuring out ways to service their clients. They kept figuring out, huge turnover of their entire staff, maintenance and install divisions. Couldn't and finally what they really were successful was grooming people that they had in their organization ready to take the next level. Mm-hmm. And it all started with a sales design person, and she worked her way up, and now she pretty much runs the ship in the install world. And just a few weeks ago, we were in Banff, Canada, with all of our clients. We go somewhere fun every year, and we still learn and understand. But he became our ACE Peer Group Member of the Year. Super profitable. He's got several people that run his organization, and they're extremely happy now. Granted, they still have their little issues, right? They still work on. They're not perfect, but it's good to see them from 2018 to now 2023, 5-6 years later, to kind of get through their thickness of issues, of turnovers, and now they're successful. Like, that gets me goosebumps, really, of seeing the success of our clients through that.
That's awesome. So if somebody wanted to learn more about your firm, where would they go?
So, yeah, good question. Go to McFarlinStanford.com, all spelled out, all one word. Go find us. We're all over social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. I've also got my own podcast called Roots of Success. I love it. I never thought in a million years I'd stand up here and do this. I just threw myself out there because I feel now like I'm responsible to spread information and education to all of our clients and everybody else. And I was in Chicago a couple of days, and a couple of young kids came up to me and said, "I'll listen to your podcast." I'm like, "That's great. All I'm trying to do is share my knowledge out to you guys." And so go check us out, and we'd love to connect with anybody.
Awesome. We'll put all that in the show notes too. Yeah. But thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate it.
It's great. So look forward to the next one, hopefully. And you're such a great host.
Oh, thanks.